connecting to network defined users and groups. Now, one of the cornerstone of establishing a secure network environment, making sure that the access is restricted to people who have the right to access the network. And if access is allowed, user can authenticate to the system. Meanwhile, they can verify their identities. That means we should have a centralized authentication for users so that we only allow those users which we know to access the resources of our network. And for that we should configure the network services. Now in our Windows, you will see the Windows Active Directory services. Now here in Linux we have different services which we can configure. It is not like Windows Active Directory, but it is somehow it do the same thing. It is like a network domain we configured. So first, on any Red Hat 7 RHEL 7 system, there are number of different services available to create and identify user identities, and these can be local system files or services which connect to larger identity domains. Like we have NIS, that is Network Information Services, and also it is called Yellow Pages services. The LDAP servers. LDAP is a protocol, and for using it uses the same protocol it uses by the Windows Active Directory domain services. It uses the same protocol that Windows Active Directory domain services are configured on the same protocol. So this LDAP protocol, when we configure it in our Linux server, it is when we make our server as a LDAP server, it gives us the Windows ADDS style user authentication. So we can configure the Linux system member of Windows ADDS domain only support up to Server 2012 or Server 2016. Even on Server 2016 also we can join the domain. That means we can configure our Linux system to join the Windows domain also as a server, as a member server. Now, NIS means Network Information Services. This Network Information Services is a database that contains a series of tables, and it creates the tables from text files like these passwd file or services files, which contains the information about the users and services, and any other tabular files. So each table may contain one column or more with a unique key on each row, and you can think of it like any normal database. So you can query these tables in a two ways, like listing the entire table directly or pulling a specific entry by searching it. So this NIS services basically is a database kind of services which has different tables for users and services informations and other informations. So when a program requests to search for the user password detail, the client checks the passwd file to check if the user doesn't exist there. That means when you try to log in with the system on the Linux system, so it will check its own passwd file that whether the user is there or not, and the client then asks the NIS server to search for it in the passwd table from the NIS server. So in a NIS server, we have a table for the passwd information, the password files information, that is users information created under the NIS table. So first, when you try to log into the client system, so client will check its own passwd file for the user information. If it is not exist, then it will ask for the NIS server that whether this user information is there or not. Now, Linux NIS servers have the two types. One is the master server that stores the original files, and the second type of the server is we can either create multiple servers of all servers as a master servers. That means if suppose we are having too much load on our network, like we have a too much authentication process to do, and a single server is not able to handle that, so we can create multiple servers, multiple NIS servers. And also we can create multiple NIS server as a master server. But if we want, then we can create slave servers also. Now this slave server is like a secondary servers, and we can use it for load balancing and helpful in case of master server failure. So in case of master server fails, then what? We can use these slave servers also. Now we can you can have multiple secondary NIS servers if you need them, but primary and secondary NIS servers are kept synced and updated. So the process is called server push. That means all the information which we have in the master server will be pushed to the secondary server. Now the next thing is what NIS domain name. So when we configure the NIS services in our Linux system, so NIS domains are just like the domains of the domain controller in Windows, but the difference is that client can join the network without having to wait for the admin acceptance. So NIS domain name can be different than your DNS domain name. So this is same like the domain we have in Windows, like which we have a domain in Windows, but in here it is not integrated with DNS. It is not a DNS domain name. The NIS domain name can be different, or you can make for ease of use, what we can do, we can use the same name as a DNS domain name, but it is not necessary to have a same name as a DNS as of our DNS server DNS domain name. We can have a separate name for the NIS server also. Now for configuring the NIS server, first we need the packages. The packages which is required is this YP-serve, then YP-bind and YP-tools. Now YP-serve, why it is called YP? Because NIS is also called as a YP, Yellow Pages services. So the packages which is required to configure it, the package names are YP, YP-serve, YP-bind and YP-tools. First YP-serve to configure the NIS server and to configure the client. That means if the client machine wants to join the NIS server, NIS domain, then it need to have a YP-bind package installed. Then YP-tools will give the tools for NIS server to manage and maintain the server, and some client tools also available. This is our NIS, this is our server Linux 1, and this server we are going to configure as a NIS server which holds the NIS services. Now first we have some users available in the passwd file. So we can see the users are there, user 1, 2, 3, 4, and these users will be added into the NIS database. So first for configuring the NIS server, we need the packages to be installed, and the packages are YP-serve. So I will check whether it is installed or not, and it is installed. Then we need the package YP-bind, that is for the client. It is available, not installed. We can use the YP-tools package also. And it is available, it is not installed. So whatever the packages we required, all the packages starts with YP. So I can also say, I can list YP star, so it can show all the packages which is installed or not installed. Now if it is not installed, then what we can do, we can install with yum server. And as we see, there is no dependency for this, so we can install it by using the RPM command also. So first we have to install the packages which is required. Now after installing the packages, we should know that what are the important files we have. So I will show you the important files for this. So I'm going to list the YP-serve package. This is required for the server to configure the server. So this is the package. Now with the package we have all these files. Now the first, this is the main configuration file. This is a configuration file for configuring the YP-serve. Then for configuring this YP server, we need these services to be enabled, and these are the services: YP passwd, YP serve, and YP export. Or only this is the main service YP serve, and we should enable the YP passwd service, and this other service also, if we need, we can enable this. Then this is the main configuration file. Then we have some configuration scripts under the library directory. Under the lib directory, we have some scripts here. For example, this is the script. It is called YP init. Now we are not going to configure it by using the configuration file. Actually we will configure it. This configuration file will have the main base configuration here. Now if we want to add the information, if we want to create the database, or we want to push or update the database, then we will use this script. So basically we are going to use this script for configuring the NIS server. YP init, which is under the USR lib64. Then this script is going to use, these are all library files, these are some commands, and these are documentation files. Now here in this var YP directory, there is a file here, make file. So the script which we are going to use is going to use the configuration of this make file. So whatever the configuration here we have defined, that configuration will be used by the script. The script will use the configuration of this file. Now if you check what is inside the file, this var make file, which is under var yp make file. So it is make file for the NIS database, to create the NIS database. Then here when you go down, so we have this option. This option is important. So if suppose we have multiple servers, and if we are creating multiple servers, primary servers or slave servers, so we have to change this option, no push, to false. By default it is no push to true. That means it is not going to push any information to other servers. The other servers, that means the servers which is having the information in this directory. So when we create the NIS database, so it is going to create under this directory. Under this directory it is going to create the servers database, the NIS database. And if we have multiple servers, so it is going to create the database for those servers under this directory. Now if it is saying no push true, that means it is not going to push any information from master to slave or master to other servers. And if we want to have other servers, multiple servers, then we have to configure this as a false, like this, no push is equal to false. So if you have slave servers, change this to no push to false, then it will send the, it will push the database to slave servers. Then these are the UIDs, GIDs, these are the information about those configuration about the make file, and what information it is, what tables it is going to create. So these are the tables it is going to create, and it is going to create by using the information from passwd, group, host, RPC, services, net ID, protocols, and mail. If you want to add some extra, some other information, then we have to uncomment these lines also. Now after this, it says here that don't edit anything below if you don't know what you are doing. So this is not for us to configure anything here, so we should not change anything here. It is a script, so if you don't know what you are doing, you should not change that. Now we did not change anything there. It is not required to change anything because we have only single server. Now we are going to use the script for configuring the server. So first what we need to start the services first, so that when we use the script, it will configure the server. Now for configuring the, for starting the services, we need to configure the domain name, NIS domain name. If you check the host name here for the system, so it is showing here, this is the machine name we have, and this is the DNS domain name. It is not the NIS domain name, it is actually DNS domain name. Now when we check NIS domain name, so it says that NIS domain name, local domain name is not set, or we can say YP domain also, YP domain name, both are same. Either we say NIS domain name or YP domain name, both option will say that both command will show you the NIS domain name, and it is not showing any name here, any domain name here, because the name which you see here in the machine name, it is the DNS domain name, which is for the DNS services. Now before starting the services, we have to make sure that we configure the domain name here. So for configuring the domain name, we will use the command NIS domain name or YP domain name. and then we will configure the name for the domain. Now we can configure any name. It is not necessary to have the same name as our DNS domain name, but we don't want to have confusions here, so we'll do what? We'll use the same domain name as our DNS domain name. So YP domain name, and this is our domain name for NIS. And if we want to make it permanent, then we have to go to the configuration file, this network, and we can add here or the configuration file for the host name, where we can see the host name. So we can add here also NIS domain is equal to example.com. Now that will do what? It will add it permanently. Now after setting the name, we can check YP domain name, and now it says this is the domain name for our NIS services. We can check by NIS domain name command also. It shows the same, that this is our domain name. Now after configuring the domain name, we have to start the services first. Let's check the status first for the YP serve services. It is loaded but not started. YP pass WDD, and it is also loaded but not started. So what we will do, we will start these services and make sure the services will run after reboot. So I will say start. I want to start YP serve and also YP pass WDD services. Now the services are started. We can check the status. So both the services are started here, but they are still disabled. That means when you reboot the system, it is going to be disabled. So what we'll do, we will make them enabled. So next time when we reboot the system, the services will be enabled. Now we can configure the server. We can create the database by using that script. That script is under USR lib64. Under that we have the directory YP, and under the YP directory we have YP init. Now for running the script, what we do, we give the absolute path with the name. So this is the absolute path for the script. Now I'm going to run this script by using the -m option. This M option is used to create the master server. That means I want to create the master server, and before creating without creating the master server, we cannot create the slave server. If we want to create the slave server, then we will use the S option. But first we have to use the M option to create the master server. So I will use this and press enter. And when we run this, what we got here, it is saying at this point we have to construct the list of the host which will run NIS servers, and linux1.example.com is in the list of the NIS server hosts, and please continue to add the names for the other host, one per line, and when you are done with the list, type Ctrl D to save. So it is saying that we are generating the list of NIS servers, the master servers. Right now this is in the name, this is in the list, and if we want to have another servers, then we can add one by one here. We don't have any other server, so the list is completed. This is the name here in the list, and we don't want to add any other list. So for saving it, we'll press Ctrl D. So we will press Ctrl D here. Now it says the current list of NIS servers looks like this. where we have these linux1.example.com in the list. And is it correct? So I say yes, this is correct. I have only one server. Now what it did here, when I press yes, it says we need a few minutes to build the database, and it is now building the database. And where it is building under YP, where YP example.com directory. It is creating the YP servers directory where it is creating the database for this server, for this example.com domain, and it is creating by using this make file. So now it is entering the directory here, and after the entering in directory, it is updating the database, and you can see it is updating the password, passwd file, group file, host file, RPC file, services, net ID, protocols, and mail. And then finally it leaves the directory, and then it says that the linux1.example.com has been set up as an NIS master server, and it is also saying now you can run ypinit-s with the master server name on all slave servers. So if we want to create now the slave servers, then we can create by using the by running the script with -s option and s for slave, and then we mention the master server name here. Now after doing this, our NIS server is configured. Now we have to go to the client machine to make that client machine member of this NIS server. So for that, we'll go to our other machine. Now this is our Linux 2, and this server we want to add into NIS domain. So this client, this is our Linux 2. And this machine we want to configure as a NIS client. Now first, in this server we don't have any user accounts created. So when you see the passwd file here, so locally we don't have any account. We have only the default account which is created at the installation time. This is the only one account we have, and other account is a root account. Now I have to make sure first the package is installed here, and the package name is YP tools, YP bind, and it is not installed. And also I need this YP tools, and that is also not installed. So first I have to install these packages so that I can configure this machine as a client. So first I will do what? I will install the packages here. We have the DVD, so I will install it by using the RPM command, IVH. So first YP bind, and this YP bind need the YP tools. So first I will install the YP tools. And YP tools need YP bind. As you see, if you try to install it from the RPM command, it is saying YP tool needs YP bind and YP bind need YP tools, and that is why we use the yum servers. So I will use yum server to install yum to install the YP bind package. And I say yes, I want to install it. And now it is installed. So sometime when you try it from RPM command, so some packages will give you the hard time, and that is why we configure the yum server. Okay, so the packages which we required is already installed now. Now what we'll do, we will first configure the domain name. So for configuring the domain name, we will use the YP domain name command, and it shows there is no domain name. So I will configure the YP domain name, and the domain name same as our domain name which we configure on the server. Now when we use this, to see the command YP domain, it says yes, the domain name is configured. Now what we will do, we have two options to configure this machine as a client. we have graphical option or we have TUI option. For configuring graphically, we need auth config GTK. We need GTK for configuring it graphically, and for TUI method we need auth config TUI. Now by default the GTK option is not available, it is not installed. So if we want to use that graphical option, and if we are using the graphical interface, so we have to install the package so that we can use that auth config GTK. Right now it is not there. As you see, when I press tab, it shows automatically completes the TUI. So if I want to have this, so I have to install it. So we have configured the Yum server. So I will show you how it looks. So auth config GTK. So it is there, and we have to install it to use it. Now it is installed, so we can use that. Now when you press auth config and press 2 time tabs, so you can see you have these two options, auth config GTK and auth config TUI. Even you can directly give auth config and it will open the TUI method. So I want to show you the GTK graphical tool. So you will use the GTK and it will open this graphical tool to configure the authentication. Right now local account only selected, that means for user account database it will see only the local account. That means for user information it will go for only local database, that is the local account, that means it is go for the passwd file. If we want to configure this, so we have these different options for this, like NIS, we have WinBind, we have FreeAP, IPA version 2, and also we have LDAP. If you want to use NIS, then you can select NIS. Then you have to mention the domain name for NIS and the server for the NIS server. Then authentication method will be used as a password, NIS password. Or you can go for more secure way, is to set up the Kerberos server. Now if you want to use the secure Kerberos protocol for authentication, then we have to, the Kerberos protocol is used in Windows Active Directory also. So first we have to configure the Kerberos server for doing the authentication. In Kerberos server we configure the realm, we configure the KDC, then it can do the authentication by using it. Otherwise we can go for the normal password authentication. Now this is the graphical way. If we want to do it for the command line TUI, so we will select the TUI option. And when you select the TUI option, it opens it like this. And from here we have these options to select. So we want to configure the NIS, so we will select NIS, press space bar to select it. And then we'll go on to select next. Now here if you see, it is going to use the shadow passwords, it is going to use the fingerprint reader also if it is available, and local authorization is also sufficient. These are the options selected. So if the user account is found under the user local authorization under the passwd file of this local machine, it will also use that. And if it is not there, then it will go for NIS. And if you want to use the Kerberos authentication, Kerberos protocol, so you can select Kerberos here. Now we have selected only NIS, and then we will select next. And then here we will configure the domain name, our NIS domain name, and this will be the server IP address, or you can give the name also. I am giving the IP address directly. If you are having a DNS server configured, so we can use the name also. Now if it is not showing any error and it completes it, that means there is it is already it is configured by default, it is not having any problem. If it is giving any error, that means it is not configured and it is a problem there. So we have made some mistakes. Now to make sure it is configured properly, we will run the command ypwitch. And when we run the command ypwitch, it will show the name of the server which is running as a YP server, as a NIS server. Again we should have DNS configured so that it should resolve the name here with the IP address. Remember, we have given the IP address of the NIS server, but it is showing the name here, so we should make sure that DNS is working so that it will properly resolve the names. Now this machine becomes the client of the NIS server, and we will check. We have already seen here that there is no account configured here. In this machine we don't have any account here. We have only this default account. But on server we have created user 1, 2, 3. So I will try to log in with one of that user. So I will say switch user to user 1. Now first when I try to do this, it will do what? It will first check that whether the user is available in the local passwd file or not. And if it is not available, then it will go for NIS server. And it is not available because we have seen it right now that there is no user 1 created in this system. So I will press enter, and it is logged in. It is logged in without showing you. It goes on to bash shell. Now it is going into bash shell, it is logging in because of the other problem, but the user is logged in without any error. That means it is using it is authenticating the user from NIS server. Now why it is showing this bash shell? I will exit from here and I will try to log in with the home directory. Now this option will do what? It will log the user under the home directory, directly under the home directory. Now when I select enter here, now this is the problem. Why? Because it is because of this problem it is showing you the bash here. Now what it is showing here, what is it saying here? Warning, it is saying cannot change the directory to user's home directory, that is home user 1. No such a file or directory. So the problem is that the user is the machine is not able to find the home directory for user 1. Now why it is not able to find the directory here, home directory here? Because it is not available here. If we check the home directory here, so there is no user 1's home directory, there is no user 1 home directory here. So why it is not here? Because it is a user of NIS server. It is a server, it is created on the server. This account is on server and the home directory is also on server. It is not here. But in the passwd file it says that the user's home directory is under home. So when we try to log in here on this client machine, it will try to see the home directory under the local home directory, and it is not finding the user 1's home directory here. So the home directory is available on server. So when we check on server, NIS server home directory, so we can see the home directory of user 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have the home directory of the users here, and those users we have we try to log into the client, but the home directory is not there. So what we have to do here, we have to make sure that this home directory of users will be available on every client machine. So how you will do that? Very simple. We will do what? We will share the home directory of these users by using the NFS, and then we'll mount that home directories on the client system so that user can get the home directory on the client. So for that, what I will do here, I will open the configuration file for NIS, and I will say I want to share the home directory with everyone within our domain with read-write permission. So we are sharing the home directory from the server. We will update this by using the -r option. Now when we check, so we can see the home directory is also shared now. This is the another directory we shared, and this is the home directory we have shared now. So we have shared the home directory from server. Now we'll go to the client and use that home directory there on the client. So what we will do here, we will mount the home directory here by using the NFS type. I want to mount it from the server, and I will mount it on our local home directory. Now when we check the home directory is available here, we can see the home directory is available. Now when I switch the user to user 1, now it is not showing any error, it is not going to bash shell, it is logging into the user, it is using the home directory because the home directory is now available here. So we have to make sure that every client can have an access of the home directory of these NIS users, and for that what we will do, we will mount the home directory. We will share the home directory by using the NFS from the server and then mount the home directory on these client machines. Now if we want to make sure that it will be mounted every time permanently, so we will make sure we will add this the entry in the fstep file. So whenever we start the server, restart these client machines, the home directory will always be mounted, and for that we will use this, we will add the entry into fstep directory, fstep file. So this will do what? It will make sure that whenever we reboot the system, it will mount the home directory always when it is required. So whenever the user try to log in, it will get the home directory. Now this is what the permanent mount, and if we want, then we can configure the AutoFS also for mount on demand. That means when the user logs in, then it will get the home directory, and when the user don't logged in, it will not get the home directory, it will not mount. Now this is how we added the user here, we added the client into the user. Now if I create the new account on server, now on server machine, if I create a new account, now I will create a new account, user add user 5. I will make the password also for user 5. Now the user 5 is available here. If I try to log in as a user 5, I can log in here on server. Now I will try to log in with this user 5 from the client machine, the NIS client. So I am here on the NIS client and I will try to log in with user 5. Now what it is saying here, the user 5 does not exist. We have created the user, but still it is saying it is not exist. Now it is saying it is not exist because the user which we have created right now, it is not updated in NIS database. The user is created only in the local files, but it is not updated in the NIS database. So when we create any new user, so we have to update that user into NIS database also. And for that, we'll go to where YP directory, where we have the make file. We will do what? We will run the command make. So we just have to go to where YP directory and then we just run the make command and it will update the new entries. So whatever the new entries we have, it is going to update those entries into the NIS database. Now the user 5 is also now available. Now we'll go to client and try to log in with user 5 again, and we can now log in. So we can log in now because it is now updated. So this is the NIS services which we configure on server 1, this Linux 1, and with Linux 2 we make this machine as a client. So same as this Linux 2, we can make all the other Linux machines client of this NIS server, and we mount the home directory of users into this machine, and then we can all the users which we create on NIS servers, they can log into any of these NIS client machines. Now that was the NIS server we configured and NIS clients we configured. Now same as the NIS, we can use the LDAP server also, the LDAP services also for centralized authentication of user management, user and group. Now this LDAP is actually the protocol. It is called Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. In short, it is LDAP. and it is an industry standard, lightweight, widely, it is industry standard, that means it is in industry standard protocol, lightweight, widely used set of protocols for accessing directory services. A directory services is a shared information infrastructure for accessing, managing, organizing and updating everyday items and network resources such as user, group, devices, email addresses, telephone numbers, volumes and many other objects. The LDAP information module is based on entries. An entry in an LDAP directory represents a single unit or information and is uniquely identified by what is called a distinguished name. And each of the entries attribute has a type and one or more values. So entries, that means the user account we create, and those identifies as a user account, group account, machine account, whatever, it is identified as a distinguished name. It is a unique style of name which is used in these LDAP protocol. Now an attribute is a piece of information associated with an entry, and the types are typically mnemonic, that is mnemonic strings such as CN, it is called canonical name, and for common name, or we can use it for common name, or mail for mail addresses. So CN is for the common name and mail is for mail addresses. Each attribute is assigned one or more values consisting in a piece separated list. Like for example, the following is an illustration of how information is arranged in the LDAP directory. So the LDAP directory actually provides the hierarchical structure. So first, suppose we have the domain here. So it goes like this: DC is equal to domain name .net, .net or .com or .de. Then DC is equal to the domain name. Like for example, example.com, facebook.com, site.com, google.com. So DC is equal to Google here, and DC is equal to com or net or de. The organization name, this is the common name, the internet domain name. Then you have the OUs here, OUs or containers. OUs are the organizational units which contains the different objects, user objects, group objects. Then it is OUs like people OU, server OU. Then under the OU we create the users or the user groups and other objects, and they objects are having the UID, and UID is equal to, like for example, babes. So this is the person. So this is the structure. Like first you have the domain, then under the domain you have the OUs, and under the OUs we create the identity. Identity, that means the user information or object information. And when we combine these all, it will call the distinguished name. So for example, this is what the Babs. Now the distinguished name for the Bab will be CN is equal to Bab. This is CN because this is the common name. Then CN is equal to Bab, comma, OU is equal to people, comma, DC is equal to com, example, comma, DC is equal to com. So this will be called as a distinguished name for that particular object. Now this is the same. This is same as what we see in Active Directory, Windows Active Directory, because the Windows Active Directory actually uses the same protocol, which is LDAP. It is designed on this LDAP protocol. Now, why we need this LDAP? So because sometime we want to configure some application in our Linux system that requires the LDAP style directory services for storing the user information. So for that, what we can do, we can configure the LDAP services in our Linux, and we can create the user authentication database. Now for configuring the LDAP, we have the package requirement first. Now package requirements are this Open LDAP server package we need, then Open LDAP devel package we need to configure the LDAP servers. Then we need the migration tools package. It will give you the scripts to migrate the users information. Users information, that means the users which we have created in our Linux server. So those users from the passwd, we will migrate those users information into our LDAP database. Now LDAP stores the user information, objects information differently. As we have seen, as a distinguished name, it stores in different way, hierarchical way. So for that we can do it manually, but for doing it easily we should use this migration tool, this package, and this package will give us some scripts to migrate the packages, migrate the user information from normal LDAP, normal RHEL, normal Linux user information to LDAP protocol information. So first we will install the required packages, that is what the Open LDAP for server. We check it is installed, it is not required to install, and then we need the migration tool. So I will install these packages directly. I will try to install. If it is installed, then it will say it is installed. So Open LDAP and then migration tools. Now Open LDAP is already installed, the migration tool is not installed, so I will install this, yes. And this one is also now installed. So the required packages are installed. Now first we have to do what? We have to generate the password for root user. Now again, this LDAP has the unique information, unique way of installing the storing the information. So it stores the user root, that means the administrator password also differently. So first we have to generate the password for the root account, which we are going to use it in our configuration. So for that we will use the command so the command is slab passwd, and I think the command is not showing here because I think I forgot package to install. LDAP, Open LDAP devel package I forgot. So I will say Open LDAP. I will give a star for installing. Okay, I forgot these two packages, devel and servers. So it is going to install now. So we need to install the Open LDAP package, Open LDAP devel, Open LDAP server packages. Okay, so packages are installed now. So the command to create the password is this, slab passwd, and when you enter this, it will ask for the password. So you will give the password whatever you want, retype, and it will give you the hash value. Now this hash value we need this hash value. We need to copy the hash value into the configuration file, where we are going to add the admin information. So in Linux machines we have the administrator as a root, and in LDAP services we have this user as a admin. So what we will do, we will add the information for this admin, and we will add it into the etc Open LDAP directory, slab d directory, slab d.d directory. Under that we have cn config file for OLC database. And this is for OLC database number 2 hdb.ld file. So this is the LD file which is having the admin information. So we have to configure the admin information in this file. So first we will open the file here. Now what I will do first, I will copy this because I want to use this here under this file. So I will open this file. Now under the file you will see here it says it says auto generated file, do not edit, use LDAP modify command. So we can modify the file by using the LDAP modify command also, or we can directly edit also. So here we have to change some information, like for example it is having the default domain name here as a my domain. So you will change this as your own domain name. So whatever the domain name you have, you will change it according to your domain name. Now my domain name is example.com, so I will remove this my domain to example.com, example, and dc is equal to com. And here also it is showing my domain, so I will remove this to example. So this will be our domain name, and this is the same domain name we have used for the DNS domain name. So I'm using the same domain name, and also we should also configure the DNS here. So it is required to configure the DNS also, and the DNS domain name we are mentioning as a LDAP domain name also. Now we have to add the information here about the admin and the password which we have generated. So at the end of this file, you have to make sure you have changed all the domain names here. So we have changed all the domain names. Now you add the new line here which says ONC root password, and here we are going to paste the password which we have generated. So this will be the password for our LDAP admin. Then we have to add new lines here for the secure certificates. Now the certificates we have not generated, but we are going to generate the certificate after this. But I am giving the information, I am adding the line here that these are the certificates we are going to generate. So TLC certificate, certificate key file. Make sure you give all the characters and words correctly. So certificate file which is going to be generated under etc pki tls certs, and the name for the certificate file we will use for example LDAP key, and the extension will by default be PAM. So this will be the certificate file. Then I will create one more line for the certificate. This will be the key for the certificate, and then I'm going to use TLS certificate file, and this will be the certificate file under the same directory etc pki tls certs, and the certificate file will be named as a ldap.pam. So I have added the password for the admin, then I have added the certificate file name. Remember, the files are not created, we have to generate these files. This will be the certificate file, and this will be the certificate key file. Now we have to generate the file also. Now I will do what? I will save this, and what next? I will open the other file for the database, and we will change the database file information about the domain. So there is one more file for the database under the same location. Open LDAP/d, and this one name as cnconfig olc, and this one will be one monitor.ldif. In that also we have the domain names which we have to modify. So by default the domain name is set here under the file is my domain, so we have to look for that, and we have to change with our own domain name, that is example, and any other domain name is here, it is not there. So it is done, there is no other domain name here. So I will also save this file. Now remember, we have not created the certificate files, we have only mentioned the certificate file there. Now to check this thing, first check the configuration which we have done. We use the slab test -u option, and it says the config file testing is succeeded. Only it is saying only some error about the checksum, because it is saying that we have edited the file directly, and that is why it is saying the checksum error. It will be fixed when we reboot the system, but right now the configuration file is fixed, it is succeeded. Now we are ready to start the services. So the services required to configure run the server is the slapd services, and we have to make sure that it will be enabled also. It is now running. Now we have to make sure that it will be enabled. So after reboot it will also be started. So this will be the this will do what? It will start the services. Now we have to configure the database for our LDAP server, and also we have to generate the certificates. So for configuring the database, what we will do, we will use the sample database file. So what I will do, I will copy the sample database file from the USR share directory. There is an open LDAP directory, and under this directory we have a sample database file, which is this dbconfig.sample. Now we are going to use this file for this sample file for our database file. So our database file will be there under the var lib directory. Under there we have the LDAP directory, and here the database file is going to be created with the same name. Only we don't have to mention this .example. This is the sample file, so we will remove the .example here. So the sample the database file name will be dbconfig. I am just renaming the file because this is the sample file, so I am removing this .example from here. Now we have to make sure that this will be owned. The permission will be correct, so it must be owned by the LDAP user, because we have copied it as a root, so it is owned by the root user, and the LDAP user is different. So we have to make sure that all the files inside this directory must be owned by the root the user LDAP and group LDAP. So I did it recursively, so it is going to be owned by this user and group, all the files inside this directory. Now we have to add the schema files for the LDAP server, and for that we will use the command LDAP add -y for external -h for LDAP I information, and it is going to be from this file etc open LDAP schema, and the schema for cosine .ldif. So it is going to be update the schema, add the schema for our LDAP server here. Then we will add the NIS schema also. Then we will add the schema for interorganizational person. interorganization person LDIF. Okay, it is not showing that. I'm giving a wrong name, I think. It is here. Int organization. It is int inet organization person. I was making the wrong spelling. Now this is the we have added the schema. Now we have to generate the certificate. Remember, we have mentioned the certificate file there, but we have not generated the certificate. So we have to generate the certificate by using the command. Now we have to make sure that the name will be right. So we have to make sure the names are right here. So what I am doing here, I want to check the name. So we have to make sure the name of the file and the path same as what we have mentioned in this file. Now to generate the certificate, we will run the command OpenSSL, and OpenSSL we required the requesting the certificate, and the new certificate we are requesting by this. This is the type for the nodes, and the output file will be this. The output file will be this. So I will do what? I will copy the name, so I don't want to do the mistake. Oh, sorry. So this will be the certificate file, output file, and then I will use the key out command option to output the key, and key will be this. So this will be the key file, and then we can mention the validity for this certificate, days 365. I will say 365, and then I will press enter. Now you will fill up the information for the certificate, your country code, then your full name, state provision name, whatever, then city name, company name, now the organizational unit name, that is whatever the section name. Now the common name, this common name must be the name of your server. So you have to make sure the common name which you are giving is the name of your server. Otherwise it will do the mistake. You can give anything here, like the country code, the city, state, whatever, but the common name must be the name of your server. Email address can be any, and then it is created. So the certificate is created, and we have to make sure that the certificate is created under the PKI directory, under the TLS certs directory, and we can see the certificate is created. This is the certificate file, and this is the key file. Okay, now after creating the certificate, now we have to migrate the database. That means we have to add the database, we have to add the information of users into the database of the LDAP server. So we have some users available under the users information here under the passwd. We have some users here, and we want to add these user into the Active Directory database, this LDAP database. So for that, what we will do, we will run. First, we will make sure we are going to use the migration tool scripts, and those scripts available under USR, share, migration tools, and there is a script called migrate common ph. So first we have to make sure we have to change some information here under the script, because it is also having the default information according to our domain before using the script, so that it is going to use the script to migrate the users. So I will open the script file here, and I will go to line number 74, 71, and here under the line number 71, it is configured as a default name padl.com. Now this is not the domain name for us, so our domain name is example.com. So we have to change this information on 71, 74, and we have to change it according to our domain name. So this is our domain name. Then on 91, line number 91, we have to make sure the schema is enabled. Extended schema option will be enabled. Now we are ready to use the scripts to migrate the users from this Linux to from our Linux system to the LDAP database. Now first we will create the base file for the admin or for the domain OUs, and for that what we will do, we will create the file here. Like for example, I will create under the users home directory, and this will be the LD file. Now under the file we will add some information which we want to use. So dn is equal to domain name is equal to the DC example, DC is equal to com. This is our domain name. Then object class is top. This is the top object. Then object class, this is DC object, because this one is the DC object, domain object. This is the domain object. Then again object class, it is organization. It is the organization. And this is the domain name for our domain. Remember to not give dot here, and then this will be our domain controller. This will be our domain, DC, domain controller. Now after leaving one line or two lines, but leave the lines empty, and then you will add the information about the manager OU. So dn, now this one will be cn is equal to manager, where the DC is equal to domain name and DC is equal to com. Then object class, this is the class of, we are defining the class of objects, so this is the organizational role. So this is the organizational role. Now cn, it is manager, and we can add the description so that we know what is this, and this is the directory manager. Now leave one more line and then add the OU information. This is the admin information, then we are adding the OU information. So dn is OU, and we will create the OU for people. DC will be our domain name, and DC of will be our domain name. Now this is the object class. So the object class for this is organizational unit. This is organizational unit object. So this is OU object, and the name of the OU is people. Now I will add one more line here, and then I will create another OU. DN OU is equal to group. DC is equal to example, and DC is equal to com. Again, this is organizational unit, so I will say object class is organizational unit, and the name of this OU is group. Now this will be the base file, which is adding what? Adding the domain information, adding the domain admin, and then adding these two OU information. It is going to add these OU information here. Now we will add the user informations. Now remember, user information is stored in the passwd file, but that is different. And also in the passwd file we have the information about the system users also. So when you check this, you will have the system users also, which is having these different the UIDs and GIDs from 0 to 999. So we don't want to add those system user accounts. So what we will do, we will first grab and create the new file of only the users which we have, the normal users. So what I will do, I will grab the information, and I want to grab the users which is starting from I can say after 1000. So I will say 10 will be all, and then 0 to 9 for the third number, and for the fourth number 0 to 9 value I want to see. So I'm grabbing the information of the lines which is having the numbers, and the numbers which is starting from 10, and for third number any number from 0 to 9, and for fourth number any number from 0 to 9. So I want to get this from passwd file. Now when you run this, it will show you the new normal users here, and you can see it is showing you the users UID from 1000 to whatever the UID you have. So it is only extracting the information of the users, the normal users, not the system users. So I will forward this information to a new file, and that will be our new file for the passwd, and this file we will use to input the data to get it into the LDAP database. Now this is the password information. Now same as I will use for the group information, for the group users, for the all groups, and I will create the new file so that it will have only the new group, only the normal groups, not the system groups. Now we have created those files here for the normal users and normal groups. Now we are going to add these files, we are going to migrate these files, and we are going to migrate it as a LDAP information. Remember, in the files still the informations are like this, but this is not the way of LDAP. Storing the information like this is not the way of LDAP. It is the way of Linux, and that is why we use the migration tool. Now what? We will use the script, that is our migration tool script. So we will go on to see the migration, and we will run the migration script for the password, that means the password file, and we want to migrate it from the password file which we created right now, like this password file which has the information of users, and the informations are in this format, but this is not the LDAP format. So this script will do what? It will convert the information of this file into the LDAP format, and it will create the new file. So I will say the new file will be users dot LD. So it is going to create the new LD file which is having the user information in the LDAP format. Then I will do it for the I will do the same thing for the groups. So I will use the script for groups to migrate the groups and the information from this group file, and I want to create the new file that will be for the groups dot LD file. We can see that file which has the information same for this is the file which we have generated for users, and you can see what is the format of LDAP. So this is the format of LDAP to store the information about user. It is saying that this is the username, UID is take, OU is people, DC is example.com, and this is the other information, email address, person, organizational person, or whatever, and also having the password here in the Windows style, and UID, GID, and whatever, same as for the other users, and same as for the group. This is the group's information. You will see this same as in the Windows Active Directory. If you list the LDAP in Windows Active Directory, you will see the same kind of information. Now we are going to pull this information into our LDAP server, into our LDAP database. We are going to import these informations. So for that we will use the command LDAP add to add this information into our LDAP database. And where we are going to add, so first cn is equal to manager and dc is equal to example, dc is equal to com. Now this is for the base information. So we are getting the base information from this file from the for the manager OU or manager object, and the file which we have created, that is the base.ld. Now it is asking the password. Now remember the password which we have created at the first step, and you have to give that password here, and you should not forget that password. So I think I forgot. You have to remember the password. So I will try it again. LDAP add, and I want to add the information. cn is equal to manager, dc is equal to example, and dc is equal to com. And I am getting the information from this base file. Password, we have to make sure the password is right, and it is imported. Now it is taking the password. So what was the problem there? I have added the password in this file, but I have not given the space. After the value, we have to give a space, then you have to give your value. Otherwise it will not take that. So it is taking the space now, it is taking that value now. After adding the base information, we will add the other information like the user information and group information. So after doing this, we will add the user informations from the user file, and then we will add the group informations from the group file. Okay, so we have added the user information and group information. We can see it is added here, entry for all those users and groups. Now we can verify what we have configured by searching it. We can search the database to see whether what we have done is right or not. So we will use the ldap search command. Ldap search to search the object, like for example I want to search the cn is equal to user1. I want to search user1 is there or not under the domain, that is dc is equal to example and dc is equal to com, and we can see the user is there, user1. So we can see the user1 is there, and also the group is also there, that user1 group. That means we have added the information properly. If you want to see everything, then you can just go on to use this. Object class is equal to star, that means all. And it will show you all the information about the users, everything what we have added. Now our LDAP server is configured. Now we can go on to the client machine and we can do what? We can configure the client. Again on the client side, if we want to configure it, so we can configure it from the same authconfig TUI tool, or we can configure it from authconfig GUI tool, both. But for configuring it here, first we need the packages for OpenLDAP, that is OpenLDAP client packages. Oh, OpenLDAP. Let's go for star. So the package which we need is OpenLDAP client, which is required to configure this client, and also we need the other package, that is NSS Palm LDAP D. Now this one is not installed. This one is installed, this OpenLDAP client. So we should do what? If it is not installed, so we should install both the packages. So we need this also, or we need OpenLDAP clients also. And it is now installing whatever it is not there. So it is installed now, it is already installed now. Now what? We can configure this machine as a client. So we can use the auth config TUI, or we can use the GTK for graphical. Let's go for graphical this time. So we'll here go for this. Now right now it is already configured for this NIS. So I want to configure the LDAP. So I will select the LDAP, and here we have to give the domain name. So LDAP search main DN. So domain name you will give here like DC is equal to example and DC is equal to com, which is our domain name. Then you have to mention the LDAP server name here. Now LDAP server, we have to make sure the server name is right. Now this is going for the local IP. I will go and change the IP. This is not our LDAP server. Our LDAP server is here, 19.0.0.1. Now for configuring the password authentication, again we can use the LDAP password Kerberos, or we can go for LDAP password, and also we can use the certificate here. We can download the certificate from the server. Now that is for the LDAP configuration, LDAP password, Kerberos password authentication. Now we are using the LDAP password normally. So I will select this. Let me revert this first. Okay, now I will go for LDAP. It was set for the NIS, so I changed it, I revert it. Now this is our LDAP domain name here, and this is our LDAP server IP address, and we are going to go for the normal LDAP password, and then I will apply this thing here. And it is applied without any changes. We can see this here under the TUI also, that we have configured now LDAP. We have removed the NIS and configured the LDAP. Okay, now what we can check, we can verify, and we can verify by using the command get any get and pass WD and the username, and if it is showing the information about the user, that means it is connected to LDAP server. Now we can switch on and we can log into that user account, and we can log in as a LDAP. So this is what we are logging in. We are logging in with the LDAP server, and remember the home directory is already mounted here, so it is not giving that error. Otherwise we have to mount the home directory also. So we can switch to any other user, user 1, user 2, user 3. It can logged in here, and it is not giving error for the home directory because we have already mounted the home directory by using the NFS. We did it for NIS. It is used here also. So if it is not mounted here, if you get the error of home directory, then we have to share the home directory also by using the NFS and mount it here in this client. Now this one is now client for the LDAP server also. So the last thing now, we have configured this machine to be a client of NIS server, LDAP server. We can also configure this Linux machine to be a member of Windows domain, Windows Active Directory domain, and we can log in the Windows Active Directory users into this Linux client machine, this Linux machine. Now for that, what I will do, I will remove the LDAP first here. I will go to GTK and I will say revert. So I don't want to use this. Now it goes back to local now. Now I will configure this machine to be a member of Windows Active Directory domain. Now first we have to configure the IP addresses properly to join the domain. So I will modify the IP addresses, modify, and I will use the same IP addresses which we have in the domain, Windows Active Directory domain. Then DNS server. So the DNS server, I will use the Windows Active Directory domain DNS server. So this is the DNS server of our Windows server, and the domain name. So the domain name for the DNS server is for the Active Directory domain is this. Now I have to make sure I will configure the IP address, the name of this machine also, because right now it is having this example.com. It should be sci.com. So I will change the name also. Before that, NMCLI connection up, update the configuration, IP configuration, and I will change the name also. So host name CTL. This time whatever the name we have here, Linux 2, but it should be sci.com. Oh, sorry, I will mention it. Set host name. Now it is having the name of the Windows Active Directory domain. Now we have a domain server available. Now this is our server, this is our domain controller, Windows domain controller, and this is the IP address of this domain controller, and this is also a DNS server. So we have configured the DNS server IP address, we have mentioned the domain name also, and this is the Windows Active Directory, and in the Active Directory we have users and computer accounts. So when you make any machine and a member of this domain, it will create the account here under the container of under the computer container. Here you will see the users. I will create one user here so that we can use that user to log in to our Linux machine. WUser2. Okay, so these are the users we have. I'm going to use this user to log into our Linux machine. Now we have configured everything. Let's try to check whether this machine is connected or not. So I will try to ping the server by using the name, and it is resolving the name server1.sai.com, and this is the IP address, and it is resolving the name. That means it can also connect. So what we can do now, we are getting the reply also. So we can do what? We can configure it. Now for configuring this, what we need is the package which is called Realm D package, and this package is already installed. Now this package will provide the tool which is called Realm tool. Now this tool will do what? It will help us to join the domain, and it will install and configure all the required files which is needed to be configured to join the domain. First I will use Realm discover command to discover the domain, whether we are discovering the domain or not. And it is saying that domain is available. You can see it is domain name is sai.com, type is Kerberos, Realm name is this, and the software required to configure this is these softwares. So it is going to install. When you join the domain, this command will do what? It will install all the required packages, configure all the required services, everything it will configure. And you can see it is using Samba for joining the domain. So what we need to do here, and software it is saying it is Active Directory. It is using Windows is using Active Directory. Now I want to join the domain. So what I will do, I will use the command Realm join, and Realm join hyphen, and then domain name. Now it is asking the password for the administrator of the domain. So I will give the password of the administrator. And it is doing what? It is configuring all those things which is required, and it is going to join this machine to a domain. Okay, now it is successfully enrolled the machine in the Realm. So it is now joined the domain, and we can verify in the domain controller, Windows domain controller. Here under the Windows domain controller, we can go to computer container. We can see the account for the user, the machine Linux 2. It is created here because we have joined the domain, and the account is created here for our machine linux2.sai.com. Now once it is joined, so we can use these user accounts to log into the system. We can log into the system by using these accounts. So let's try this now. Okay, now I will check the command realm, and realm I want to see whether it is configured or not. So I will use this, and it says it is configured, and you can see it is saying that you can log in with this format like user account, add domain name, and it is allow the Realm login. Now let's try to log in. So I will try to switch the user account, switch WUser1 at sai.com, and we can see we are logged into this account, and we are authenticating it from the Windows Active Directory server. There is another account we have, that is WUser2, so we can log in with that account also, and we can log in with that account also. So this user is also available. I log out. Now if we want to check, we can check by this, and we want to leave. If I want to remove this machine from domain, then we will use the command relum leave the domain, leave sci.com, and it is now removed. So when you run the list command, it does not show. When you try to log in with the user account, it says no, this user does not exist. So this is how we can easily join this Linux machine to a Windows Active Directory domain. So what we have seen is the user and the network defined users and computers. We have seen how we can configure NIS, LDAP, and how we can join the users, and also we saw how we can join the domain, Windows domain, how we can use this Linux machine to join the Windows domain.